I am ripping the band-aid off today with some of my tough topics, like the asthma and ADHD. It's difficult for me to discuss, same with the broad shoulder, and this one, I just like, so what is the topic of this video that I'm still just beating around the bush, getting to the topic of? It is, I was diagnosed with melanoma, a type of skin cancer, at age 22, and the question that immediately followed for me was, what do I do? So when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with 100% chance of getting skin cancer, and then a few years later, I was a preteen or early teenager. My granddad, my grandpa, dad's dad, died from melanoma, and it is a slow and it is a painful death. And I was a swimmer and I played water polo and I was a lifeguard, which meant time in the sun, and so there was a very good chance I would get this younger than my grandparents did because of my lifestyle. And it doesn't help that the climate is changing and there are holes in the Earth's atmosphere, so more sun's rays come in. That's where melanoma comes from, is excessive exposure to the sun. And so with increased intensity of sun's rays, I get more exposure, or like, you can think of it as like a dosage. I get a higher dose, and then I get skin cancer sooner. And so in interacting with dermatologists, and I had a plastic surgeon, something consistent amongst all of them is they kind of call it the potentially killer for my generation because of the changing climate and more sun exposure, that skin cancer will actually become a increasing issue. I hope not, but that is the world we live in, especially for people who have lighter skin tones. They're more at risk for things like skin cancer. And so just remember to cover up and apply that sunscreen. Everybody can get it though, so it's some groups are more at risk, but everybody can get it, so that's just something to keep in mind. And so I had 100% risk as a kid, and then I kind of thought, I'm gonna die by the time I'm gonna get it by the time I'm 20. I'm gonna die young. And I wasn't too far off in it was pretty spot on from when I got the mole that ended up being cancer. I got it about when I was 20 years old. I remember looking in the mirror, and I'd grown up, and doctors had always told me this is what you look for, that kind of stuff, and like make sure I do body scans to look for anything new, and if it looks like this, you might have a problem. And it matched it to a T, and it had a weird tickling sensation and some pain, physical discomfort and pain at the mole site. And I got that when I was 20 years old, yes, but it wasn't formally diagnosed until I was 22 years old. And I was diagnosed, it was the day before or 2 days before, I think it was the day before, might have been 2 days before, it was 1 or 2 days before I started my PhD program in geophysics at the University of California, Berkeley. And I just remember being like, I might not even make it through this PhD. Is the harsh reality of the situation. So it was melanoma, and it turned out being a whole lot better than I thought it was going to be. So there's a happy ending to all this. But the psychological toll is immense. And so, so melanoma. Let's rewind. Melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer. It is a deadly type of skin cancer. And it's there's an immediate part with melanoma that makes it so deadly. And so that's what I got, and it was in situ, which if you get melanoma, that's what you want, because that means they can cut it out of you. In situ. So that's what I got. And I had so I'm rewinding to being a kid, because when I'm being told as a kid that I have a 100% chance of dying, potentially at a very young age, from skin cancer, and then I watched my grandpa die from it, a slow and painful death. I didn't ever think I was gonna live a long life. So I'm going through stuff now psychologically. I'm dealing with stuff now. I'm healing now. I didn't ever think of having a retirement account because I knew, and might be wrong on this. I can be wrong on a lot of things sometimes. Sorry. Like, I want to make it to retirement, and it was just, how do you live your life if you know it's not going to be long? And so, I mean, for me, my life is, all of it has been following my heart and what I love. And for me, as this planet, it's the rocks, it's the mountains, it's how can I live my life to do my best to protect this planet that I call home, and the people who live here, Earth and its inhabitants, both human and non-human alike. And so that's just kind of what I've been doing. And getting diagnosed with melanoma, it wasn't actually a bad thing, because it was in situ, and for the first time, and it was just like so much of what I'd learned in life, and stereotypes propagated about certain types of doctors, like the doctor, and he literally saved my life because he cut my melanoma out, but mentally, it was, you could live to be 100 years old, which was the first doctor to tell me that and provide a path for that, and not just be like, you're gonna die young, and you have 100% of dying. It's no, you do have to change your life. And I had already been changing my life before that point because I knew I had this mole when I was 20, and so I stopped going outside so much, and I started wearing long sleeve t-shirts instead of short sleeve t-shirts. I haven't gone back to swimming or lifeguarding or water polo like I used to avoid the sun, and just the psychological realizing I could, like in my family, living past 100 years old, my ancestors stuff, that's pretty normal. Like, so to be given in a life, like, in realizing that I can live long, I'm still recovering from that. I was 22 years old. I'm 28 years old now. I'm older than I ever thought I would make it to. And I know a lot of people think 30 years old sounds like a curse, but to me, that would mean so much. It'd be such a blessing to live and have 30 years on this earth. Yeah, so I'm still healing. And they got all the cancer cut out, and I've kind of overhauled my life since 2015 in a really big way. I'm making this video. That's one example. Yeah, and then this past year, 2020, I got another spot that felt like the first one, and I don't have medical insurance. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to the doctor. I need to figure something else out. And so I took it off myself, and the pain's gone and the tickling's gone and stuff like that. But I'm still working on putting my life together. So yeah, I found out about myself. What's the big revelation here? Some people, if given a death sentence, will go on a big trip or something like that. And when I got my mole that was cancerous, I started rethinking my life, and I was like, I don't want to save up a bunch of money and go on some super long hike or go on a big trip. My dad kicked me out of the house when I was a teenager, and I was like, you know what I want to focus on? I want to focus on my family and having what time I do with them. So that was, I like to say I'm an adventurer, and I am, but family matters most of all for me in the end when given that death situation. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about now for this topic.